previous semesters and all of our colleagues. Before we begin, just a few words. The Graduate School of Education was founded in part to develop a body of research on education in Egypt and the region. Not from abroad, not by just a couple specialized experts, and not by non-educators, but by on the ground, people here within the country, people that we intend to be the transformative, passionate, capable educational reformers, the leaders and the scholars who will move education forward in this country. The work presented today exemplifies this intent. Our faculty welcome and encourage wide-ranging issues from assessment to experiential learning, from sustainable development to social entrepreneurship, technical education to STEM education, from creativity to mathematics education. That was just a list of the papers that will be presented today, and a wider range of topics as well. These are the studies that move a system forward, that provide insight and awareness to the challenges and the solutions that schools, universities, governments, and ministries need. So we're grateful to all of you for the hard work that you've done over the past couple of years in our program. And we're grateful to your friends and your family members who are here today and those who aren't here, because they supported you also extensively as you were working towards this goal. Together, all of us, not just the students and faculty, but our family members and our friends, are working toward progress. One final thing before I pass this over to Dr. Hussein. As graduates who leave our university, it's important to note that the way we do things at American universities, such as the American University of Cairo, is never actually let you go. Many scholars say that one of the things that made higher education in the US the envy around the world was that graduates of the universities felt an incredible identity with their schools, their departments, their faculty members, and their universities, and realized over the course of their lives that if they had let that identity go, they would let go of one of the most important assets that they have in their lives. The brand and the style and the global recognition of the university that they attended. It's also important to us to keep that going as well, because without your success, we don't get the recognition long-term that we need to be a sustained school. So stick with us, support us, and we will support you over the coming years. We want you to attend our events and to stay connected with us, work on us with projects, send your colleagues to our programs, and be engaged with us in a variety of ways as we work together on common goals. In return, we will continue to increase our global prominence, our research output, and our capacity for reform in the country. It will benefit you and your career as we progress. We want you to be as proud in 30 years of the Graduate School of Education as you are today, because probably we'll be prouder of you in 30 years than we are, which is amazing because we're extremely proud of you right now. So welcome, thank you all for coming, and we look forward to a wonderful series of papers today. So Dr. Hussein, the Department Chair of International Comparative Education.
Welcome to everybody, as Dr. said. And as you can see in your program, there's a great range of topics that the students have engaged in research. So we will start with Ms. Mariam Makramallah, who's going to tell us about how to draw a scientist and how that test can be calculated.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming. Today I'm going to be presenting my topic. It is titled Culture, Contextualization of Mathematics Instruction, a Raw Scientist Test Analysis. Now I know that the title tree is very complicated. This is why I'd like you to, let's kind of split it into three main words. You can see the word culture, the word context, and the word mathematics. these are the three main words we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking later more about it, but just to give you a feel of how it's going to be. This is Rawia. Rawia is 6 years old. Rawia is one of 11 family members. She's the youngest of her brothers and sisters. Rawia's parents both don't work, and Rawia's biggest dream is to one day own a sewing machine in order to be financially independent and to support her family. This is Jennifer. Jennifer is also 6 years old. She's an only child. She's living in the province of Maidi with her father and mother. Jennifer's biggest dream is to one day become a lawyer like her father. Now I want to ask you a question. Do you think that Rawia's and Jennifer's demands to the education system are the same? Do you think that both of these people require the same thing of the education system? And do you think that one sole education system can cater for the needs of both of these students? Do you think that one sole education system can be a one-size-fits-all model that caters for the needs of all of these students? The answer is one simple word: the context. The context is different. The context of Rawia is very different than the context of Jennifer. And this is why Jennifer has different demands to the educational system, and Rawia has very different requirements from the system because they grew up in a different context. Now, does the context really matter? Up till now, in all of our classes, we've been talking about different classroom pedagogies. We've been talking about project work. We've been talking about student-centered classroom versus a teacher-centered classroom. And we've been discussing different pedagogies that the professors or the teachers can adopt in a classroom. But is the pedagogy a mere teacher's choice? Is it just the teacher's choice to adopt a certain pedagogy over the other? Or is there more to it? Literature shows that a lot of economic pressures kind of force the teacher to adopt a certain strategy over the other. If the school is funded by a foreign entity, then this foreign entity has the right to enforce a certain style of teaching and learning that has to be enforced in the school. Literature also shows that the teacher is very strongly governed by the exam. And the teacher's success is measured by the success of the children at the exam. So if the examination system is not in line with the teaching system in the classroom, then the teacher has to adopt by the system that is adopted in the assessment in order for the kids to pass the test, even if the teacher himself is not fully convinced with that system. Parents are the main stakeholders of any educational system, and also literature shows that parents usually have certain expectations from the school. A very famous quote would be that I don't pay all this money to school to have my child learn from his peers. I want my child to learn from the teacher. So parents come with their own beliefs and mindsets, and even if the teacher has the best intentions to enforce a certain classroom environment, parents have their say about whether the teacher can do that or not. The teacher's own background, a lot of the readings, especially about teacher beliefs and self-efficacy, show that a teacher usually adopts the same method that he has personally been exposed to as a student, or a method that he has been exposed to during teacher training. The school culture, the most famous example for that would be the Catholic schools. Personally, I went to a Catholic school, and it's all about the discipline, the uniform, the timings, and it's just a culture of discipline generally. And this culture of discipline dictates a certain pedagogy in the classroom. It dictates the fact that you have to stand up when the teacher comes in, you have to shut up until the teacher stops talking, and so on. So it's just the whole culture of discipline that is associated with the school culture. And even if the teacher has the best intentions of having the kids sitting on the desks and so on, the school culture sometimes does not allow for that. political agendas. I don't want to go into detail into that area. However, in one of the readings that we had during our Masters, the School and Society, we can see that the school is a direct mirror of society. Any system that is adopted in the school is mirrored of a system that is adopted generally in society. So from that we can deduce that the context does matter. A classroom pedagogy is not something that is standing alone. And whether to adopt a teacher-centered style or a student-centered style is not something that is just a teacher's choice. It has a lot of other considerations. Now, how does this relate to my talk? Remember when I told you to mark the 3 words at the beginning? It's basically the word context, the word mathematics, and the word Egyptian culture. A lot has been written about the teaching and learning in the Egyptian culture generally. Much has also been written about the concept of a context and contextualizing teaching and learning. And also much has been written about mathematics and the different methods to teach and learn mathematics. However, what I decided to focus on is kind of the link in between. I want to look at teaching mathematics in the context of the Egyptian culture. So that's kind of the question I'm trying to address. More specifically, the question I have is what insights about classroom power dynamics in the Egyptian mathematics learning context can be drawn from the analysis of preparatory local school students' drawings. So basically, my understanding of mathematics is that it has to do a lot with brainstorming and creativity and thinking and critical thinking and so on. So if you have a power dynamics in the classroom that does not allow for that, then you have a problem in the mathematics classroom specifically. So I'm looking at the power dynamics and how this affects teaching and learning mathematics. Now, you might be asking, why drawing? Most of the literature in psychology shows that if you sit with someone for an interview, or if you ask someone to fill in a survey, probably people are prejudiced or people are stressed because they're in the situation of the interview, and very often you don't get the result that you actually wanted to have, or you don't get a genuine result, especially if you're talking about students in the school. So this is why I decided to adopt the concept of drawing, because it provides for a non-biased platform for people to simply express their opinions. Okay, so basically the method I adopted is quite simple. I go into the classroom. I went to a school in Giza. It's a local Egyptian school. And I did this with 60 male and female students in preparatory school age. I asked them a simple question. I give them a prompt. Please draw to me a mathematics teacher in a classroom. That's the first step. After I gather this data, I start with my analysis. The first filter I use for my analysis is called the DAST analysis. It's kind of out of scope to go into the analysis details now, but it's available in my thesis if someone is interested to read it. However, what this analysis does is it measures the drawings against a line, and the result is that I can put the drawing, I say from the drawing I can deduce that the student is experiencing a student-centered classroom. Or I can deduce that the student is standing somewhere in between. It kind of analyzes the experience of the student in the classroom. Following this analysis, the papers go through another filter, which is the DAMT analysis. Again, it's kind of out of scope to go through all the details of how the analysis works, but it's simply an analysis that assesses the degree of student intimidation in a classroom. So for instance, if you find a drawing, and in the drawing you find a tool of violence in the classroom. So the student drew, for example, a stick. This is a very big indicator to student intimidation, because the student feels intimidated in the classroom. He feels that the stick is like the furniture in the classroom. If you find the student drawing himself very tiny and the teacher is huge, this is a sign of student intimidation. It means that the student feels small. So you kind of go through a certain filter to assess student intimidation from the drawings. After that, you do a double filter integration, you put the results together,
And hopefully I can answer my question with that, my research question. So just in brief, my method was a sequential double filter integration. Double filter because I used 2 filters, and sequential because I used them sequentially after each other. It's an inductive case study because we're developing the knowledge over time. The philosophical view is interpretivist, and it's a dual mono method. The word dual means 2, so I'm adopting 2 filters. This is why it's dual. And mono stands for because both filters are a qualitative analysis tool. So this is why it's a mono method. It adopts 2 qualitative methods, which means dual mono methods. Okay. The results of the analysis were for me very interesting. The first filter, which was expected, revealed a very high tendency towards a teacher-centered classroom, which was expected, more or less. The results of the second filter were very interesting. The second filter showed a very balanced teacher-student power dynamics, which for me was interesting because I thought that if the students perceive the teacher to be dominating the classroom and to be at the center of the classroom, then they would perceive an imbalanced power balance in the classroom. They would perceive themselves being intimidated, they would perceive themselves being crushed. However, all the students, or most of the students, indicated that the power balance in the classroom was very moderate. This for me was a paradox at the beginning, and it necessitated another filter to answer this question. I started reading again, and I think I found the answer in the social cognitive theory, particularly in the part that focuses on the beliefs and on the self-efficacy. The answer to my question was this. Every single drawing, or 99% of the drawings, depicted the teacher smiling. For me, this was the answer to my question. Because in the social cognitive theory, it says that maybe the teacher simply adopts a teacher-centered classroom because this is all he knows. This is what he believes to be the right thing to do. Not because he wants to crush the students, not because he wants to have a one-man show in the classroom. It is simply because this is what he knows to do. And this is observed by the students. The students perceive this. And this is why most of the students are drawing their teacher as smiling. This speaks against much of the literature, especially in the West, that is trying to say that we in the East are very dominating, and as teachers we're crushing the students and so on. This study speaks against that, because being teacher-centered does not automatically mean that we don't care for the students, nor that we want to crush the students or oppress them in any way. My conclusion, parents' expectations, the school culture, and as we were saying, the teacher's own beliefs might dictate a teacher-centered classroom. However, this does not mean that the teacher is abusing his authority by crushing the students. Of course, due to time limitations and accessibility limitations, this study could be broadened further, and maybe future work can look at whether this is the case in many schools or whether this is simply the case in that particular school where I did my study. Future research can also try to work on a comparative study, which was my original idea, to adopt this same method in an international school and to kind of see if there are differences in the results. A cross-gender analysis would also be a good idea. This was for me very interesting because the classroom where I went, the teacher was a female. The mathematics teacher was female. All the students, when I asked them to draw their teacher, they drew a male figure. Which for me was surprising because the first thing they would draw is their own teacher. Even the teacher was a bit surprised. So I did some reading and I realized that there are some stereotypical associations between mathematics and men. And maybe someone else can, if someone is interested, they can take the pictures and maybe filter them from a filter like that. Also, another stereotypical feature I found is that although I spoke with the teachers and most of them said that what the students are currently learning in mathematics is algebra and geometry and very complex forms of math. However, when you ask the students to draw mathematics, to illustrate mathematics, all they simply draw is simple arithmetic figures like 2 plus 2 is 4 or 1 plus 1 is 2. So why do our students associate mathematics with arithmetic? Is also a question. Maybe someone can look at that in the future. I'm done with my work, but I cannot finish my presentation without really extending my big thank you for Dr. Reba. Thank you very much for your support, and it was really the whole idea of the thesis was actually born in one of your classes when you asked us to draw students. So thank you for bringing up this this passion in me. Dr. Jennifer, I also want to thank Dr. Jennifer because of her professional approach in all the time being making sure that I do everything in the very academic way to do it. So it's a pleasure to learn from her. The GSE, Dr. Roseanne, and even if she's absent, Dr. Samiha, and of course Dr. Tez, I'm very grateful for a chance to be in this family. Al-Alfi Foundation, I want to thank Al-Alfi Foundation for investing in people, because much of the effort that is being done nowadays is investing in buildings and investing in machines, and I don't know investing in what, but Al-Alfi are believing in people, and even if they're not present here, it's I am proud to be an Al-Alfi Foundation member. Mrs. Inan Tawadros, I want to thank her for allowing me to be part of her school and to do my study at her school. These are my references, and thank you very much for listening.